Hello and welcome everyone to episode 12 of the Four Agreements. We are reading about the third agreement, to not make assumptions. We read, understood in last episode about how we make assumptions and how it creates whole drama around us with simple examples and little introspection. When I was reading this chapter, I was just nodding my head because I could relate to everything what has been said in this chapter. Yes, I did realize that I do make a lot of assumptions, and that knowing that yes, agreeing that yes, I do make assumptions was the first step towards bringing a little extra happiness, true happiness in my life. So we will move ahead. And as I told you at the end of the last episode, we will start today's episode with one simple, very relatable example of what happens when we get into a relationship with someone. So let's dive in. Author here tells us often when you go into a relationship with someone you like, you have to justify why you like that person. You only see what you want to see, and you deny there are things you don't like about that person. You lie to yourself just to make yourself right. Then you make assumptions, and one of the assumptions is my love will change this person. But it is not true. Your love will not change anybody. If others change, it is because they want to change, not because you can change them. It's the simple truth. Then something happens between the two of you and you get hurt. Suddenly you see what you didn't want to see before. Only now it is amplified by your emotional poison. Now you have to justify your emotional pain and blame them for your choices. We don't need to justify love. It is either there or it's not there. Real love is accepting other people the way they are without trying to change them. If we try to change them, this means we don't really like them. Of course, if you decide to live with someone, if you make that commitment, agreement, it is always better to make that agreement with someone who is exactly the way you want him or her to be. Find someone you don't have to change at all. It is much easier to find someone who's already the way you want him or her to be instead of trying to change the person, which is absolutely not possible. Also, that person must love you just the way you are. So he or she doesn't have to change you at all. If others feel they have to change you, that means they really don't love you just the way you are. We have to be what we are. So we don't have to present a false image. If you love me the way I am, okay, take me. If you don't love me the way I am, okay, bye bye, find someone else. It may sound harsh, he says, but this kind of communication means the personal agreements we make with others are clear and impeccable. I think he's trying to emphasize the importance of clear communication between relationship. Communication without fear, without assumptions, of course. It's not about sounding harsh, but it's about creating a space to communicate clearly with the other person. Now, here you may ask me that how do I communicate clearly but do not sound harsh? It's a very logical question. And I'll tell you, I also did have this question that how do we communicate clearly? And I found the answer to this in the book by Eckhart Tolle. The Power of Now. In one of the paragraphs from this book, he says, Eckhart Tolle says, once you have disidentified from your mind whether you're right or wrong makes no difference to your sense of self. And therefore, the compulsive, deeply unconscious need to be right no longer exists. In previous episode, we saw that Miguel is telling us how human mind works. And we read that as humans, we have need to justify everything, explain everything in order to feel safe. In the book Power of Now, Eckhart is also telling us on the similar lines that we have this compulsive and deeply unconscious need to be right. When you can disidentify yourself from your mind, if you're right or wrong makes no difference to your sense of self, he says. And that is when you can state clearly and firmly how you feel or what you think. And there won't be any aggressiveness or defensiveness about it. I guess once we start practicing this agreement more and more, we will find our way to state what we are feeling instead of assuming. We will start finding our ways to ask questions to clarify the situations, clarify any doubts in our relationships. Let's come back to our current book, The Four Agreements. In the chapter ahead, Miguel is encouraging us and asking us to just imagine the day that you stop making assumptions with your partner and eventually with everyone else in your life. Your way of communicating will change completely. Your relationships will no longer suffer from conflicts created by mistaken assumptions. The way you keep yourself from making assumptions is to ask questions. Make sure the communication is clear. If you don't understand, just ask. Have the courage to ask questions until you are clear as you can be. Even then, do not assume that you know everything. Once you hear the answer, you will not have to make assumptions because you will know the truth. Moving ahead, he says, also find your voice to ask for what you want. Everybody has the right to tell you yes or no, but you always have the right to ask. Likewise, everybody else also has the right to ask, and you have the right to say yes or no. If you don't understand something, it is better for you to ask and be clear instead of making assumption. The day you stop making assumptions, you will communicate cleanly and clearly, free of emotional poisons. Without making assumptions, your words will also become impeccable. With clear communication, all your relationships will change, not only just with your partner, but with everyone else. You won't need to make assumptions because everything will become very clear. This is what I want. This is what you want. If we communicate in this way, our words are become impeccable and all human problems would be resolved if we could just have good and clear communication. Ahead, Miguel talks about how to apply this agreement in our day to day life. He says that don't make assumptions, as third agreement sounds very easy, but he understands that it is difficult to do. It is difficult because we have been doing exactly the opposite most of the times, all our lives. We have these habits and routines that we are not even aware of. Becoming aware of these habits and understanding the importance of this agreement is the first step. But understanding its importance is not enough. Information or an idea is merely the seed in your mind. What will really make the difference is action. Taking the action over and over again strengthens your will, nurtures the seed, and establishes a solid foundation for the new habit to grow. After many repetitions, these agreements will become your second nature, and you will see how the magic of your word transforms you from black magician to a white magician. Who is this white magician? A white magician uses the word for creation, giving, sharing, and loving. By making this one agreement a habit, your whole life will be completely transformed. The next, last paragraph in this chapter is little intense, and it goes: when you transform your whole dream, magic just happens in your life. What you need comes to you easily because Spirit moves freely through you. This is the mastery of intent, the mastery of spirit, the mastery of love, the mastery of gratitude, and the mastery of life. This is the goal of the Toltec. This is the path to personal freedom. So, all my listeners, make an agreement to yourself to not assume and transform your life. Always do your best, even when you falter at times. The fourth and the last agreement is exactly that. Always do your best, which we will read about in our next episode. Share your love ahead. Until next episode, love and light.